Welcome back, YouTube. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about some micro and macro trends here for Doge and for Bitcoin really here, and some of the numbers we need to see to kind of get the ball rolling, and what some numbers I'd be looking to see to have like a continuation of a bull run and open the discussion here for all-time high. So here in the micros, we're going to take a look here at the current trend. Obviously, the last few days we've been closing higher, not significant movements, but as for Doge, you'll see that we're above the 14-day here. Let's go to Binance chart here really quick. I want to point out here that we are above the 14-day. We have about 3 days right now. It's looking like we're going to close green again today. To break out of this zone here, we'll need to see something around like 1223 for this current trend. You can see that we didn't consolidate here to the bottom of this zone, which is actually pretty good. We came here in price action, but you'll see the green candles here. This is a very strong rejection here. This wick, I'm going to move over and zoom in. This is a very strong rejection here, this wick here. And obviously this is, if you were day trading, and I'll say you saw this on like a smaller time frame, this will be something that you would use to signal a kind of like a trend reversal, because technically you would wait for this here, get your confirmation candle, and then you would come in. Obviously this is a red candle here, but obviously this is a day. That's why I said a smaller time frame here, and you would kind of get the idea of having a smaller different direction and trend here as far as a trend reversal. And we're getting the price action here, so that's, like I said, we're above the 14, 12 23 roughly to break out of this. If in the macro time frames, we are, as far as we're bull runs and testing new all-time highs, there are a bunch of significant levels in here that I'll cover in different videos. But as far as for like the true macro here, the discussion for all-time high, new peak bull run, all that kind of good stuff, for me, the discussion opens up at a retest here at around 22 cents. Right now, obviously we have some levels and some things going on here prior to we get to prior for us to get to that level here. Obviously around the 16 cents is going to be a big one here, getting above the 200-day, and then we have a few things here that could signal that initial run up here, like we were charting before back in early June and late May, was this golden cross here between the 14 and the 72. Obviously we can have something like that with the 14 crossing the 200 and the 14 crossing 72 here, and with this coming down here, we'll be able to get those signals at a lower level, and we can kind of see how that aligns up with fib, and we can kind of get like a decent idea of some of these projections for some of these smaller time frames. But to open up that discussion here for the all-time high and to retesting some of these higher levels, all that kind of good stuff, for me that starts with the retest at around 22 cents here. We're going to take a look here at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has actually been moving, making some decent strides here recently, which is good. We want, obviously, if you're talking about the, internet's a little slow here. Obviously, if we're talking about the push here for the crypto market in general, you're going to want to see some strength here for Bitcoin. Now, the 14 crossing the 200 here, and technically speaking, this is known as a death cross, right? 14 crossing the 72, that's a death cross. And so we got the downward price action. And here we have the 14 crossing the 200. Now, same thing with Doge, but these are obviously bigger movements here to the upside. So what we could have here, if this is able to maintain and hold, or this current trend continues, we can see the 14 literally curve and go right back across the 200 here, which is this red line here, giving you kind of a golden cross here, and kind of like it signaling a trend reversal here. But obviously that's a 14, we're still below it, so we have some days here to kind of curve that back up, unless we get some pretty significant movement to the upside. So again, not the end of the world here, but it's most certainly a good sign here for life in crypto, and kind of putting a bottom to around where price action is this first liquidity coming out of the market, right? And same thing that I said for Doge, the discussion for all-time high, the discussion for the peak bull run, and Bitcoin going into six figures, all that opens up at a retest at some of the previous highs here around like 73,000. We have to start retesting that before we start calling for these signals and these numbers here. And obviously there's plenty of time that aligns with what we're talking about as far as for Q4, Q1. Time wise, there's certainly room for to have these retests. I just think that the sell off after the early run caught everyone off guard, and so that's why a lot of the projections here were off. Because if I believe that if crypto, Doge, Bitcoin, everything would have trended more normally, it would not have given such a strong signal early on, right? So if we would have had this gradual movement here, kind of, if you can follow the cursor, if we had this gradual movement and slightly going up like 49,000 in April, 51, then we could say, okay, yeah, we're seeing the projections here. We're seeing the liquidity coming into the market. We're having some dips, but overall, this is looking good. But that's not what happened. We had this in January, then we had this very aggressive increase here to setting a new all-time high. Very early on in the year, and literally altcoins doing it, altcoins running at the same time that Bitcoin did, and it's really a unique situation here because we have some things that you can compare and overlay with previous runs, and you have some things that have never happened before. You have certain trends that have never happened before, but it's also kind of correcting back to some things that we have seen before. So it's very interesting, right? But I think for the most part here, if we're looking at some of these zones here, then we're going to have to consider those options here for all-time high, 100K, and all that kind of stuff once we start to retest around the 73. But I will say it's very significant is Bitcoin did not lose this top zone here of FIP, right? So we had some rejections out of the, what is this, like from around like 55,000, because technically speaking, we could have seen Bitcoin come down to around like 51,000, where we've built up like some a slight resistance here. And we had some gaps here that could have been filled, right? There's really, if you're talking about like support or price action coming in here, we can probably take a look at some of the pools of liquidity, but we could have taken a look in here to see like what type of buy orders are waiting. But this technically could have been a gap that filled where we would have been talking about 50,000. But it rejected a few times out of this zone and closed every time back in the zone. So technically speaking, Bitcoin never closed back in this zone since we ascended out of it in February, right? Bitcoin never closed. Bitcoin to this day has not closed back inside of this zone. So for me, that's also a good sign here. If you're talking about, bull run and, the potential here to go higher here, because Bitcoin didn't lose its zone area. It's kind of like stumbling here, but it didn't lose that zone here, so that we were retesting and giving up a lot of those gains that giving up some of the I'll say like the bottom two levels of this gains here that it had since February, right? So very important notation there for those of you questioning whether or not the run is still on, and whether or not we're going to see it, whether or not we have a potential here for some significant runs here later in the year, right? Because right now, typically, if crypto's trending sideways and crypto's not being very bullish, you'll see an increase in shorts kind of come in, because they always try and call the market prematurely. It literally is like I would say the opposite of a bull, but you'll have shorts, anytime where there is some negative information in there, they're going to try and run in and call the market prematurely, and you'll see a spike in shorts here. And let's take a look at the price action from a few different exchanges. So 5 minute, 30 minute, 1 hour are all roughly around 70-30, 70% long, 30% short. The 5:30 1 hour, 4 hour 71.28, and 1 day 71.28 there. So obviously haven't seen that significant flip, but this is certainly higher than what we were seeing a month or two ago, as far as for the short to long ratio, right? Or long short ratio, right? Liquidations. Short liquidations are significantly higher, right? We're monitoring some levels from certain exchanges, Binance, Bybit. Again, not everything, but some, so you can get an idea. And let's take a look here at open interest. Open interest nominal down 0.01% on the day. So nothing significant. And that's another thing too. Like if you're looking at trends here, right now we're at around 436 million in open interest. For me, if we're looking at especially pertaining to Doge, that we're really moving when that open interest gets around 900 million to a billion. That's when things start to get interesting for Doge, especially if you're looking at some of the past trends and even comparing it with earlier this year. Things are going to get really interesting once you get around that. So we're looking at some of the retest here, obviously holding those zones, and we can make some smaller micro videos to kind of detail out some of those zones and price actions here. But we're looking to continue these trends here so that we are in position to retest some of those higher highs. And obviously for open interest, we're looking at a double here, at least from where we are now with that 400 million in open interest. Let's take a look here. One more thing here, just to make sure there's no divergence. Trend. So green day over for most coins, right? Bitcoin, what is this here? Green, yeah, 61,000. Again, what you're looking for here, and this is something I always kind of check, is placement, especially for if your coin is in the top 10. Obviously you're looking for I look more so like look at the chart pattern versus green to green, just to kind of get an idea of allocation of funds. But you'll see Doge is lining up at 1149 right now, 1.74% on the 1 hour, 2.93% on the 24 hour, and 8.58% on the 7 day. 16.6 billion in the market cap, 534 million in the 24 hours. Similar price actions to what we're seeing here from some of the top coins here, Bitcoin, Ethereum. If you take a look overall at the chart patterns, and it's not losing placement. So for me, I am perfectly fine with this price point here. Like I said, people saying, "Oh, what's the issue to panic if Bitcoin is going up?" And Doge doesn't appear to be reacting that much, or my coin isn't reacting that much. Look at the chart pattern and look at the placement. When that divergence starts widening, you will know. It will be very obvious here. You'll see a divergence not only in the chart pattern, but you'll see a divergence in allocation of capital. And then the placement of these coins won't be there. So you'll start to see, let's say, well, we can use Doge for example. Let's say Doge is at position number 9 in top 10. You have a divergence in capital here. So the chart patterns are starting to look less and less alike. And Doge is now number 11 or number 12 or something like that. So now you're seeing a loss in interest from institutional allocation. It's breaking trend here from the other coins. So those are some signs here where you can start to consider, okay, well, this is going to be a different type of ball game here, and institutions have lost allocations in it. So that means that it may not have a allocation here where we're talking about like options and all that kind of good stuff. The biggest thing for Doge is still going to be getting utility from a retail perspective, but institutional allocation, there's nothing we can do about that other than them having an interest in it based on the amount of retail involvement, right? So obviously I do believe X payments will not only help as far as the utility for the retail perspective, but it also gives a stronger reason for institutions to be involved with it as well, because it has a use case there versus buying it just to buy it or buying it based off of speculation and all that good stuff. So that's still that none of that has changed. Those are the fundamentals of the asset of it being used as a currency. None of that has changed, but overall, right now we are in good shape. It is not. I'm not seeing any divergence in here. For a placement, chart action, all that good stuff. So I don't see a reason to panic here. So overall, that is my update here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section here on price action as we are breaking trend and appear to be setting a new trend here to the upside. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section here. We have around 40,000 before Bitcoin gets to 100K. So still making that push here to get to 100K before Bitcoin does. If you'd like to help with that, please consider subscribing to the channel. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you guys in the next video.